platform for experts of respective fields to share about topics relevant to the current situation in the market, allowing you to relate the knowledge in real-life work situations. So if you wish to find out more about our services, visit our website at www.pmcccorporation.com. Before we begin, let us go through the house rules. First, you are encouraged to switch on your cameras and interact with the speaker to get the most out of this experience. Secondly, do mute yourself unless you are requested to switch on your microphone. Otherwise, you can post your questions in the chat box if you have any, and the speaker will be addressed accordingly during the session. So for today's BrainHuddle session, our topic is ESG and Sustainability in Construction and Real Estate. How can we maximize ROI and value? Presented by Mr. Matthias Jauber. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for this insightful webinar on ESG and Sustainability in Construction and Real Estate. How can we maximize ROI and value? I'm Zine, your host for today, and it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, our true environmental pioneer and sustainability advocate, Mr. Matthias Jauber. Matthias hails from Burbach-Lepe, a German village nestled within the forest, which ignited his lifelong passion for environmental stewardship. He pursued this passion academically, earning a Master of Science degree in Environmental Science from Brunel University in UK, year 1994. His dedication to the planet has been recognized globally. In year 2008, Matthias was voted greenest person on the planet in a worldwide online competition, and in 2020 and 2016, he was honored with the Green Icon of the Year award in Malaysia. His innovative spirit shines through his achievements such as publishing a book made entirely from a recycled paper printed in mushroom ink and building Southeast Asia's first off-grid tiny eco-home in Malaysia, year 2017. Matthias has served as a consultant and trainer in sustainability and ESG for numerous international organizations and development banks, including the Asian Development Bank, ADB. Notably, he was the ESG advisor for the Philippine Stock Exchange from year 2019 to 2022. As the co-founder of Maliki GmbH in Germany, he has shared his expertise in 42 countries and delivered 5 TED Talks, earning various accolades for his impactful and actionable training sessions. So today, Matthias will share his wealth of knowledge and experience, offering practical insights and real-world case studies to help us enhance the value of our construction and real estate project through sustainability practices. His ability to deliver content that participants can immediately apply within their organizations is truly remarkable. So without further ado, I'll pass the floor to Matthias Jauber, the Green Man.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good morning here in Germany. I'm currently in my Kampung in Germany. And thanks, Xiying, for the kind introduction. It would be great to get a little bit of an idea where you guys are coming from. At the moment, obviously, I think most of you will be from Malaysia. Is there anyone else outside of Malaysia? Would be interesting to know. And if you have any specific questions or expectations from today, please feel free to share them in the chat box. It would be great to get the idea of what you guys are looking for. Obviously, I will cover my subject, and hopefully there will be some actionable and innovative ideas for you. But if you can share whether you have any specific interests from today, that would be very much appreciated. So let me kickstart things by sharing my slides for today that I will be covering. You can all see them okay? You can all hear me okay? It would be nice to see some of you guys. I think that was what Xiying suggested. I know it's usual for everybody to hide behind their little button which switches off the camera, but if I can see some of you guys, then it will be even more interactive and even more dynamic and real, rather than just seeing some dark screens over there. But okay, no problem. We will manage whatever is kind of possible at your end. Yeah, you can see my slides. Everything okay? That's good. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, sikit lama jadi bukit. That's what I learned from a Malaysian cab driver when he asked me, what do you do? Do you have a job? I said, I don't have a job. I came to Malaysia in 2004, on Malaysia, my second home. At least in those days, you were not supposed to be doing work in Malaysia or have a job. So, and the guy asked me, what do you do? I said, I try and inspire people to go green. Oh, taxi driver said, go green. Very difficult in Malaysia. Malaysia, no money, no talk. His perception was obviously going green costs money, but it doesn't make any money. This was the situation in 2004. Maybe the situation is still the same, but hopefully today you will get a couple of good ideas and examples how it can make money and how ESG as a wider agenda can make money. Last year, I gave a senior talk on ESG strategy to a listed Malaysian company, to their board. They paid me a lot of money for the talk. I told them, guys, when I came to Malaysia in 2004, I would have had to pay you guys to listen to me. Now you guys are paying me top dollar to listen to me. And this is the difference that ESG has made. ESG has brought it at a board level. But at the moment, people are thinking about it from a compliance perspective. They are thinking about, I have to do it. It's a compliance issue. I have to comply. Why do I do it? Why does it motivate and inspire me? Because I have 3 children now. In Malaysia, in those days, I was enjoying my bachelor lifestyle. Now I'm a family man, 3 kids at home. Even more reason to fight for an inspired future where we take care of the humans and the planet. ESG is not just about environment, it's environment, social governance. More about that in the near future. But I'm inspired by ESG because people are now paying good money for putting this at the board level. They are listening, they're interested, they want to hear strategies and stories, and they want to get a good clarity on how they can align this with their business strategy. If your company is only doing it because Bursa requires it, or your customer requires it, then it will most likely cost you a lot of money. Why? Because you're doing it from a compliance perspective. And when we do things from a compliance perspective, we do the minimum necessary. So this guy, this taxi driver, no money, no talk, had that perception. But by the end of the conversation, he told me, oh, what you're trying to do is little by little, more and more. Sikit, lama jadi bukit. My kampung in Germany, where I'm at the moment, greetings from here. The guy in the middle was me, the short one with blondie hair. But actually, guys, this is the latest scientific discovery. To go green and to go sustainable, you should all be botak. It saves water, it saves shampoo, and it looks like a solar cell, right? Very shiny on top. Actually, these were the only judges for the global Miss Earth final in 2016 that were male. I mean, this was very gender balanced. There were a lot more female judges. So, and here I'm wearing the same shirt. You can see it, right? Like many years ago. Actually, I bought this shirt in Malaysia more than 10 years ago. I've been wearing it maybe 500, 600, 700 times. I can't count it. I was asked many times on Facebook, how many of these shirts have you got, Green Man? I only have one. It's not the most eco-friendly shirt in terms of the material, but it's super eco-efficient because I've been wearing it so many times and it's virtually indestructible. So asking the question, what is the best social or environmental action we should take, requires a lot of different variables. Because this shirt, when I bought it, was not an eco-friendly shirt. But it now has become a super efficient, low-carbon, zero-waste shirt because I've been wearing it so many times. So this is actually as well the challenge that we are facing in the world that without us was very green, but now is very full of construction. Now, if I would ask you what sector in the world has the highest carbon footprint per 1 million US dollar GDP generated, what sector will that be? What is the sector with the highest carbon footprint in relation to business turnover? Okay, the person who guesses it correctly will get a copy of my book for free. PDF copy. I don't have any physical copies left. Let's make a guessing game, guys. Which sector has the highest carbon footprint in relation to GDP generated? Human beings, I mean, human beings obviously are responsible for a huge amount of carbon footprint. They generate a huge amount of waste, but this is an industrial sector in relation to GDP, in relation to business generated, in relation to turnover related. O&G, oil and gas. Yeah, oil and gas is quite high, but it isn't the highest. Transportation is high, but it's not textile. Textile industry has a huge carbon footprint. You're right. But Alex and Krishnan were mentioning construction. Please tell me the subsector of construction or materials that you think has the highest carbon footprint. Construction as a whole is not necessarily correct, but in terms of GDP, yeah, concrete and steel, you are very, very close. You're very, very close. So what part of that? Sundar, electricity. Yeah, you will see in a minute, electricity generation, power generation, especially with fossil fuels, has a very, very high carbon footprint. But Krishnan is on the right track. Which exact process, when it comes to concrete and steel, is the process that has the super high carbon footprint? The construction of buildings has a very high carbon footprint. Yes. Go Su Yin and Krishnan get a copy of my book. It is actually cement production. Cement production has the world's highest carbon footprint in relation to GDP. Amazing, right? Hardly any one of you would have assumed that. Let me show you that here. I'll jump a couple of slides. I asked that question a little bit too early, but here you have the carbon giants, the sectors with the highest emissions. This is based on 2020 figures. This is the CO2 emissions generated to generate 1 million US dollars of revenue. And you see there the utilities, the electric, gas, and water. But under materials here, you have the worst culprit is cement manufacturing. Cement manufacturing, for 1 million US dollar of product sold, of money generated, you have 4,500 tons of CO2 emissions. Wow. Actually, the total amount of CO2 emissions coming from cement is more than double of all the planes in the world together. Whole of the aviation industry, worldwide, all the fuel that they consume and the CO2 emissions that are generated, the CO2 equivalent, cement has more than double of that. Surprising, right? You guys might not have known of that. Real estate, however, here, for 1 million US dollar of real estate that is being sold, there is about 31 tons of CO2 equivalent. But when it comes to cement, we have 5,400 tons of CO2 equivalent. That is huge. That is gigantic. Yes. And what does that mean for ESG? ESG, classically, we have here the environment, social governance. We have obviously climate change and carbon emissions as a key ESG item for the construction and real estate sector. Let me look at that more from a construction lens. When we look at ESG in the real estate development, we don't just have the building itself or the building materials. We have as well due diligence, site acquisition, in that stage, you should already be looking at things like biodiversity. What's the biodiversity you have on your site? And how can you maximize the preservation of the biodiversity? Construction and real estate has a huge, in some cases, negative impact. And the classical way of, okay, let's chop everything down and then do some landscaping later on is killing biodiversity. We should retain as much of the biodiversity as well. So when you look at sites and sites acquisitions, can you build that in? Design. What materials are you going to use? How efficient is your building in the end, in operation? How good is the air quality? And that air quality, what does it mean for the productivity of the employees? My friend Raymond Rufino in the Philippines, he is very famous for being the pioneer in green buildings and healthy buildings. He says, Matthias, during the pandemic, my occupancy was still super, super high. And I charge much higher rates per square meter in BGC than other developers because the international clients are coming to my buildings because they want low carbon and healthy buildings. So it is actually the ESG goals and the ESG knowledge of clients that is often driving the value that you will get out of doing these things in practice. Here are a couple of more wider areas. You'll get the slides, so you don't need to jot them down in detail. You know, we have here the classical environmental areas. Most of you guys are already familiar with that. Biodiversity is mentioned in there, but even things like sustainable mobility. We have already done a lot of these things with green building certification, but what hasn't been addressed so effectively in the past has been the carbon footprint of the building envelope itself, which is one of the things that, you know, cement is really having a heavy impact on, and steel. And I show you one of the trends that's going on. But then we look at the social aspect. You know, we have at the workforce, the employees, the equality, diversity, and inclusion, EDI, is increasingly a big buzzword. But what I think is very, very important is employee engagement and well-being. We've classically focused on health and safety. We've classically focused in the construction sector, in the real estate sector, of making sure that we have no accidents, which is very, very important, very, very critical. But the whole employee wellness, and then, you know, further down, you have human capital development. How can you actually, and you will see that later on, there is huge value potential in this. And then the local community. I mean, classically, we have done the CSR thing, right? We've taken some money and given something back to the local orphanage or old folks' homes. But increasingly, we need to look at it internally. A good example that I can give you in the Philippines, my friend, a German guy, he runs a BPO office, business process outsourcing office there, loads of them around. He said one thing he noticed when he came in was the food was extremely unhealthy, and the catering contract was given to a company that was driving every day 30 kilometers from the other side of Metro Manila. Metro Manila apparently has the world's worst traffic conditions. People are wasting a lot of time on the road. So they had contributed to that by not sourcing the catering for their employees locally from a local supplier, but from a supplier on the other side of town. And it was super unhealthy. Doesn't make sense. You're contributing to a higher carbon footprint. You are contributing to traffic jams. You're contributing by bringing unhealthy food to your canteen. So he basically changed all of it. He said, I want healthy food. I don't just want oily, meaty food. I want vegetarian. I want fresh fruits and vegetables. And I want to source it from the local community surrounding our office so that we do not contribute to traffic conditions. So we are looking from the outside to the inside. What is our core business and how can we align the negative impact and the reduction of that, but even more so, the positive impact that we deliver? by decarbonizing, by sourcing from the local communities, by providing a very healthy and productive environment for our employees, where they are excited to stay with us long term. This is one of the biggest challenges in the BPO sector in the Philippines. Employee retention is super, super short because people want to switch to a slightly higher salary. So if you can provide things where employees are in a very healthy and productive environment, you give them great food. This guy was even introducing a Cardassian lighting system, or whatever it's called. I can't remember exactly the technical correct expression, where he tested it at the beginning, to change the lighting so that even people on a night shift feel sleepy at the end of their night shift. And he had flipped it around, and he had employees coming to him and saying, "Hey, boss, I'm struggling to sleep. I don't know why." So he had tested the effectiveness of the system. So he was implementing a lighting system in his office to make it easier for people to go to sleep. The governance issues on ESG are already the issues that are very well managed by listed requirements. The disclosure and the reporting, the business risk, the data management, the unions and stuff like that. But now we are looking at that not just from a compliance perspective, but as well from a strategic opportunity perspective. And if organizations do ESG that are not listed, then this is something maybe fairly new for them. But for listed companies, this has usually already been a requirement. Then when you look at the priority issues that you should manage for your industry, for your sector, in the past, you only looked at financial materiality, what matters to our shareholders. Now you try and understand what is double materiality, social and environmental wider stakeholders. Now we are increasingly looking at digitalization because we have all of this data within our organization. Practical example is, if you run a construction site, and your delivery, your procurement, your waste generated on site. If you have the data from the suppliers, from the deliveries, from the waste being generated and maybe going back, or even going to landfill sites, you bring that all together, then you can much more efficiently understand what is going on within the organization. Classically, we've done CSR. They can nicely coexist. We don't need to throw CSR out of the window, but ESG is not a one-off. It's not a budget that you can cut once economic times are tough, which is what happened with CSR. ESG is core business focused. What is the negative impact that you need to minimize and control, and how can you deliver a positive impact for society and for the environment with your core business? We have the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We won't go too much into detail. Why are people often confused about ESG? Because there is this soup of standards, requirements, reporting frameworks, rankings, guidance documents. There is a lot to digest. That's why I tell people, first understand the big picture. Don't go into reporting immediately unless it's a requirement. Understand what your customers want from you. If you understand what your customers want from you, then you can turn it into a competitive advantage. That's what the advice I gave one of my clients in Dubai the other week. I am working with them for a project where they've turned a local biomass waste into a board. It's like an MDF or plywood board, but it's made from biomass waste material. But they are an engineering contractor. They have an M&E business. I told them, you're selling the most eco-friendly building material here. It's a carbon sink. But your other businesses, if they effectively align and focus on digital decarbonization, customer requirements, construction companies, a lot of the big companies in the UAE are making net zero roadmaps. You could become the market leader in delivering net zero construction and real estate services. And generally speaking, that is what the taxi driver thought. And I learned that even 10 years before that, 1996, when I was for the first time in Asia, I came to Indonesia. I gave a talk there for the Indonesian industry about environmental management. And people told me, yeah, you got to go green in Germany, but here in Indonesia, why should we bother? It doesn't cost us anything to get rid of our waste. We don't have to pay for waste. Then I was thinking for a while. I was still a young guy, but fortunately, I came up with a good idea. Hey guys, if you are manufacturing waste, you've paid for the raw material, you've paid for the labor, you've paid for the electricity. Are you sure it's a good idea to manufacture waste, even though you don't have to pay for it? Less waste is more profit. Here is a simple example from a property that I was in before the pandemic. It was a hotel in Metro Manila. How can you find out whether a light bulb is incandescent or not? Touch it. If it generates heat, that means it's super inefficient because most of the electricity going in comes out as heat. LED bulbs don't get hot. You can touch them. You don't really burn your fingers. The classical incandescent light bulbs, super inefficient. Or if you look at industrial motors as an example, if your industrial motor that's running your air handling units, or if your pumps that are running the chilled water inside of the building are very noisy, vibrate a lot, and get very hot, then you know you have a super inefficient motor that wastes a lot of your money and contributes to a high carbon footprint inside of your building. Here I did a quick calculation. This hotel, they would have recovered their money after 2.5 months of changing those 536 light bulbs that were unexplainably still old, hot, incandescent light bulbs. The ROI can be super fast. How about this? What's wrong or problematic on the left and what's problematic on the right? This is me when my baby daughter was born. I traveled around with an indoor air quality monitoring device. Mobile devices, many different brands around. They become quite cheap already. $200, you get a very good device with variables. What's problematic on the left? What should be the maximum CO2 concentration for a healthy building? If any one of you gets it roughly right, you get as well a PDF copy of my book. There on the left-hand side, the carbon dioxide emissions is 2,500 parts per million. It's not very good. Yeah, Krishna. Wow. Krishna is good. Another book for you, huh? He's got it spot on. 1,000 is the threshold. If you're above 1,000, bad news. That means you don't have fresh air coming in. And, you know, very often you have that in an open office environment where the assumption was we need only one air supply, fresh air coming in, and one exhaust air going out. And that's it. The whole room will always have fresh air. Then people, you know, partition off parts of the open office. They make small meeting rooms with walls. And then suddenly you have a meeting in those meeting rooms and everybody gets sleepy. Why? Because the CO2 concentration goes up, up, up. This scenario here, it was at 5:22 a.m. on July the 31st in 2018. This was in the middle of the night. This was a hotel room in Metro Manila. Guess why the CO2 was so high? The ambient CO2 concentration out there in the atmosphere is currently now 420 ppm. It used to be 380 before, through our industrial revolution and all the coal, the oil, the cement that we have, the limestone, I mean, the raw material of cement is limestone, that we have digged out, we have poured into the atmosphere. Now, this was a hotel. I knew the facilities manager. I told him, what's wrong with your hotel? It should never be such high in the middle of the night. And I think we have here one comment coming in. Let's see what that comment is. Good guess. Yeah. Aircon and refrigeration. Yeah, in that case, the CO2, high CO2 is obviously coming from us, the humans. We breathe in the oxygen, we breathe out the carbon dioxide. But there should be fresh air supply coming in, bringing this down. He told me, but he said, don't tell anyone. That's why I'm not mentioning the name of this hotel. He said, you are the first one ever that is pulling me up on this. Our hotel is running since 5 years. We always switch off the fresh air supply at night to save electricity. Wow. I was shocked. I mean, this is not a good, healthy practice. But he said, nobody has complained ever over the last 5 years. You're the first one that has complained. That is understood. There's something strange here in our hotel. Don't tell anyone, please. That's why I don't mention the name of the hotel. But, you know, this is a good way of saving electricity, but it shouldn't be done. Yeah. Krishnan mentioned no ventilation, no fresh air supply coming in because they switched it off. Right-hand side, very interesting. Look at the date, 1st of January. There you have to look at the lower date, 1st of January 2019, 2015. Extremely high humidity. It's outside. New Year's Eve. The PM 2.5 does not come from the haze with peatlands burning in your neighborhood somewhere in Malaysia or Indonesia. It comes from the fireworks. 1 hour later, that PM 2.5 came down to normal levels. So air quality can be a huge negative or positive in any building. We'll go more into detail in that later. I have a couple of case studies on that as well. And you will be amazed about the ROI. This is a study from McKinsey. They say there are 5 major areas where ESG can deliver more money to you. One is top line growth. If you understand what your especially B2B or B2C customers want, practical examples, you have a customer, let's say the Malaysian government or Singaporean construction company, Capital Land, for example. Esther and the sustainability manager. I met her again last year at COP in Dubai. She told me, hey, Matthias, I made a deal with the banks, green financing. I need low carbon cement. I need low carbon steel because my interest rates are going to be linked to the carbon footprint of the materials that I use and the project that we're delivering. This will come in Malaysia as well, sooner or later. And if you then have the low carbon steel, or you have the alternative that's even a carbon sink, then you might have a much more attractive value proposition to such customers because you're delivering them a solution to what they have committed to. Or B2C. I look at, last time I was in Mid-Valley Property Exhibition, I asked people, oh, what's going to be the air quality inside of your property if I buy it for my children? Nobody can give you an answer. Nobody has ever thought about, hey, put an indoor air quality monitoring device in there, show on a screen, this is the good air quality that we are going to deliver in the bedroom for your children. Feel safe. We care about this. We are not going to do any fit out that contains formaldehyde or other nasty chemicals that will impact your family's health. Cost reduction, lower energy consumption, reduced water intake. Again, if you have an energy efficient building, whether you're selling it to a commercial customer or to a residential customer, this is a good argument because in operation, they will have a lower price. And if your customer has a net zero roadmap, you're helping them to achieve it by having the same square meter at a lower carbon footprint. Last year, I chaired a panel at a conference on energy efficiency in buildings. There was an Australian REIT investment fund. They said, before we even look at the building in any detail, we'll look at the carbon footprint. If the carbon of the footprint of the building is not very impressive, we don't even want to touch and consider acquiring that building. The value of a building nowadays with sophisticated investors is going to heavily impact it on the carbon footprint of your building in operation. Otherwise, it's seen as a climate transition risk. Maybe this building will require loads of upgrading in the future, or it will be very low value because tenants don't want to come because it is too high carbon footprint and too costly to operate in. Regulatory and legal interventions. This is more in the Western world where you have a lot of regulatory control. If you are proactive on ESG, the government gives you more freedom and flexibility. But a productivity uplift, boost your employee motivation, attract better and more long-term sustainable talent through that social and environmental credibility. There was a study done in Malaysia comparing the Bangi Green Tech office with a very famous tower in the center of KL. And this was from a Malaysian university, a refereed journal. They identified that the sick leave occurrence in that famous office tower was more than twice as high than in the eco-friendly office in Bangi. Wow. If you convert that into cost to the business, it's a gigantic saving. And investment and asset optimization, I already mentioned that. If you have such a sustainable building, the returns for an investor are much better and capital will be much cheaper because now the banks are starting to really influence this. This is an example of a contractor company. This is taken from the Malaysian Bursa Guide on ESG reporting. This is something that you can download from Bursa Malaysia, just as an example to give to you here. Obviously, economic performance is part of ESG. You want to have a good, profitable, sustainable business. But then anti-corruption, health and safety, if you're operating in a country where corruption is still an issue, then it's higher up on the agenda from an importance to business and importance to stakeholders. So these are some of the issues. Here you have another. This is from CBRE. They have carbon emissions and compliance kind of at the top, then green and healthy buildings, but as well, employees, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and employee well-being, all key issues here. This is another way of looking at it. If you have a strong ESG performance, you should have better cash flow. You should be more competitive, higher profitability, higher dividends. From a valuation perspective, you have lower risk, lower cost of capital, and higher valuation. Classically, ESG comes from a risk evaluation perspective. It started off with negative risk screening. We don't want to invest in tobacco. We don't want to invest in weaponry or something like that. And we want to exclude any risk to the share price. Exactly what happened to a famous Malaysian rubber glove company when the US said, hey, you cannot sell your products anymore in our market because there's an issue with the way you treat your employees. That is a classical ESG risk where the investors want to understand that. And then, they want to allocate their capital based on stocks with lower risk. But then, we are looking as well at overall how this can help share price development. And a better risk management, has a lower risk of severe incident and a lower tail risk. That's why ESG funds are looking at ESG investments. But the results are not consistently predictable because since the war in the Ukraine, we have had, the oil and gas kind of stocks, not the tech stocks. The tech stocks were classically more seen as the ESG stocks, as the ones who have had the biggest share price acceleration in the short term. So this is one of the factors that influences share price development over time, and it can be very, very good for you to minimize risk, but as well to maximize new business that you can potentially get. And a lot of big boys are very aggressive. Microsoft is one of the most aggressive companies. They want to be carbon negative already by 2030. And they're investing a huge amount of money into it. Here is their roadmap. You can see that. I mean, with AI and with data centers, the electricity consumption is going up for Microsoft, Google, and the other big boys, but they are aggressively investing into carbon removals. This is another big business opportunity for Malaysia. The latest mega trend for carbon removals is biochar. You turn waste biomass into charred carbon that then cannot turn into CO2 or methane anymore. Then you have considered the carbon removal. And there are technologies now that can do that at a modest cost and generate a lot of additional high-value products. Here is the classically scope 1, your direct emissions, scope 2, your electricity, and then scope 3 in construction, all the building materials you're bringing in, that's usually the highest carbon footprint. Now, scope 2, when you look at retrofitting opportunities in existing buildings, your induction motors. Very few people are focused on it, but classically, when you look at the total life cycle cost of a 5 horsepower induction motor, after 15 years, the initial purchase cost of 3,000 ringgit only makes up 3% of the total life cycle cost. The maintenance 7,000. With induction motors, you need to redo the copper wiring, but the electricity consumption over those 15 years, that's where the big part is. So 90% of the total cost of operation in this case, and people have been ignoring this. I mean, here is a Malaysian example. I've seen it with my own eyes. And, you know, this is actually a Malaysian product. I know these guys since more than 10 years. I had them 2016 at the ADB, Asian Development Bank, Green Business Forum. They came from Malaysia. They told me, oh, in a couple of years' time, we want to be the market leader in efficient motors. And I can't remember exactly whether I believed them or not, but I was impressed. And they have made it happen. I mean, they've done some major projects in Malaysia. Here, this motor, full load, the actual saving is 54%. It's incredible. They did a project in a shopping mall in center of KL, and the average saving across 47 motors was more than 50%. It's mind-blowing. The ROI was super fast. I mean, incredible. And the beauty about these motors is you change them overnight. It's a plug-and-play 2-hour job. I mean, the problem is when you do a big retrofitting project in buildings, you replace the chillers, you need to shut down the building. But these motors, you can do them with operation. I mean, it doesn't disrupt the operation. They did a big project with hospitals as well, in 12 different hospitals all over Malaysia. Hospitals run 24/7. No need to shut the hospital down for the retrofitting. So this can all be done. Scope 3 is really where the big carbon footprint is for most organizations. Here is an example of Capital Land. They are doing a sustainability challenge where they're inviting new innovations, new solutions. And this is as well a huge opportunity for any company that's in the space of construction and real estate. You can recalibrate your existing consulting, engineering, construction services to become more sustainable, more innovative, more efficient, or you might come up with additional opportunities. This is done by organizations like Capital Land because they are looking for new solutions. But to be quite blunt and frank here, in some spaces, there are already a lot of solutions out there. If you're coming up with a box standard solar panels, there are 101 suppliers already. Even nowadays, ESG reporting software, there's 101 people already offering ESG reporting software. Don't focus on a market space that's already well served. Focus on areas where there are new opportunities. Here is a good example as well from a green retrofitting opportunity. Here, you know, the energy reduction initiatives that they implemented, obviously with the LED lights, the HVAC control, the energy efficient air handling units. I'm sure they did something with the motors as well, the chiller system, you know. I mean, cost avoidance nearly $5 million per year. And once you avoid that cost, then that cost contributes every year to your profitability. Here we look at Skanska. Skanska has a bit more of a strategic look at it. You know, I'll give you those slides. I just want to share one or two examples on indoor air quality and the quantification of the possible return, because I think energy efficiency and decarbonization, like with the motor replacement, is a no-brainer fast ROI, especially for buildings where there has been no retrofitting yet happening. You're paying through your nose. And here, these guys, they actually massively focused on a healthier, more productive work environment. They introduced indoor air quality monitoring and improvement. And they had a 50% reduction in absenteeism. That's mind-blowing. They're calculating that the value of that is over $100 million. And if you think about it, you know, okay, this is from the Western perspective. 90% of your costs are salaries and benefits. 9% rental, 1% electricity. Okay, in Southeast Asia, the electricity part is higher than that. But this is huge. If you focus on a healthy, optimized work environment, and I'm an advisor to a startup company in Singapore that's actually exactly doing that, focusing on optimizing the productivity in an indoor environment to give clients maximum returns. And here, you know, this is 2 days ago in a newspaper in Singapore, parents realizing that their kids were getting sick because of the formaldehyde containing furniture that people were installing. This is serious. Here is a US example as well, the employee motivation. They put down the CO2 levels. Sometimes as well with indoor air quality monitoring devices, you can as well reduce your air handling unit air exchange. If the indoor air quality is still good, no need to bring in fresh air. Most offices nowadays, it's automated based on timing, not on actual quality of indoor air. So measuring the temperature, I used to be in an office building, you know, always too cold. I had to install an indoor air quality monitoring device with temperature sensors to show to the bosses and to the owners of the building that they were wasting a gigantic amount of money through these kind of scenarios. So here in their case, they say that the investment, doing the healthy building certification and the improvement of indoor air quality and other aspects, that they already recovered it after the first half of their 10-year lease agreement. So quite good, impressive, fast ROI. I will share with you all the slides. I will not go through all of them because there are a couple of other case studies, but let's use the time now to give you guys the chance to ask some questions. I still see Zi Ying featured here on the screen. Maybe you can put me on the screen so it's easier. Can you all see me, or am I just a small dot in the top? So questions, guys. Either share them in the chat box. Okay. Oh yeah, Krishnan commented 95% drop in share value. Yeah. Yeah, ESG is actually a big component. It was ESG started as a risk management investment framework. And you know, you can actually search, if you go to the internet and you search Sustainalytics or MSCI ESG rating and type in a Malaysian listed company, you usually get some of the information out there in terms of their listing and their ratings. So yeah, CapitaLand are very forward looking. They have been a pioneer in this. And we have a question here from Sundar. What are some of the practical steps that companies can take beyond compliance with ESG to truly maximize the value? I mean, first look at the big picture. What are the sustainability trends in your business? And what are the major negative impacts that you have environmentally and socially? And what are the major positive impacts that you can deliver in the future? And how does that align with what your customers want? The first step that I would take is download the sustainability reports of some of your biggest customers and study their future targets. If you can help them deliver their targets, like I can guarantee you, all of them have decarbonisation targets. What targets they have on the social front? Most of them will have targets for increasing the number of women in senior positions and on the board. Some of them have targets to increase the training. Whether they have actual targets to increase employee wellness, maybe not yet. But this is, if you can quantify the return that your solution can deliver. This startup company that I'm working with currently in Singapore, that does the indoor air quality, even without launching the product, because they are analyzing the data based on productivity and optimizing it, even without officially launching the products, they're already signing large corporate clients up to the solution because people can see, wow, this is what we need. So, okay, guys, bring on more questions here. What are some usual challenges that are faced by companies when trying to implement sustainability in their projects? Cost and what are, I give you a very practical example. I did a 4-day ESG innovator training for a company in Penang. And one of their targets is reduction of CO2 emissions for initially scope 1 and scope 2. And they had come up with some major retrofitting for their buildings. And in theory, it had been approved, but then it was stopped because the budget was too big. And the ROI would have taken 7 years. And the finance guys said, oh, 7 years is too long. So my recommendation is start off with some low-hanging fruits where you can make money from the initiative, and then everybody will be, whoa, great, ESG is good. And you need middle management and board to be on your side. If you just collect data for sustainability reporting, you might get on the nerves of people. Why? I don't have time for this. Or in some cases, people want to control the data. So you should actually get people on board. Like HR is very important for ESG. Hey, HR team, I want to work together with you. How? This is what ESG is all about. We want to improve the wellness of the employees, the motivation, the retention. I see you are doing already 1 time a year healthy eating training. Can we expand that? Can we increase can we work with our medical insurance company? I looked at the medical insurance statistics, the same kind of story. People have certain illnesses that might be related to a lack of fitness, the things that they're eating, often with the food, we can change it. Or some things might come from bad indoor air quality. So yes, in call center environments, reducing employee turnover is gigantic financial return. Are you a caring employer? If you have in your office a monitor screen with real-time indoor air quality data, explaining why this makes you more productive and more healthy, and then, maybe at the end of the year, you get, some of your employees, even in a raffle, to get an indoor air quality monitoring device for home usage with their family, so they can check their home environment. And those people that work from home more than 50%, maybe that should be part of their induction, to give employees a mobile indoor air quality monitoring device, so that you as the employer are keen to support the families and your employees with a healthy living environment. And if they detect any problems, then maybe you can help them fix it. I mean, this will be really an impact where the employee feels valued and feels, really appreciated. This is very, very important in nowadays world. So when we look at how we can overcome these challenges, if your company is completely looking at ESG from a compliance and reporting perspective, then people are reluctant to spend any money. Turn it into an ESG sales opportunity. That's what I tell everyone. ESG is the biggest sales opportunity that we've had for a long time. Just understand the ESG targets of your customers. For that, you can just download their sustainability report. It's all there in the public domain, especially if people have signed up to something that's called SBTI, Science-Based Targets Initiative. Google that. They will give you detailed year by year roadmaps and targets that they want to achieve. Why? Because companies have been criticized by making very vague, we are going to be net zero by 2050. Stakeholders, media, governments, others are asking, what exactly are you doing? So the companies who want to be super credible, they do SBTI. Yes, Krishna, this is a gigantic sales opportunity. It's a gigantic business opportunity. For PMCC, it's a gigantic business opportunity. If we better understand what are the mega trends that our customers are embarking on to achieve their ESG metrics, especially like one mega trend, for example, have you seen this? CIMB gave out a letter saying all of the hard to abate industrial sectors, because a bank's biggest environmental impact is the emissions they are financing. The negative social or environmental impact they're financing is what they get attacked on by the media. So nowadays, banks are flipping that around. CIMB has done some great work. They are a pioneer. They have told the cement industry, hello, cement industry in Malaysia, we appreciate you as a customer, but to be in line with the Paris Agreement, we expect you to, does anyone know? You can open up YTL Sustainability Report. Currently, their carbon footprint per ton of cement is in the area of 670 kilogram of CO2 per ton of cement. Public information. I'm not disclosing any secrets here. It's in the sustainability report. And then what target has CIMB given the Malaysian cement industry by 2030? You should achieve 450 kilogram of CO2 per ton of cement. Wow. That's a serious challenge. They need support. They need technology. They need innovation to get there. Same for oil and gas. Same for palm oil industry. Some of the biggest Malaysian industries has been given CO2 targets to achieve by CIMB. I think Maybank has followed or is following. Guys, again, this is a gigantic sales opportunity. There we go. Hopefully, I gave you some useful examples today. Sikit-sikit, lama-lama jadi bukit, energy efficiency, scope 2 reduction, motors, industrial motors, what my Malaysian friends have done, it's a no-brainer. And then thirdly, focus on indoor air quality, employee wellness, gigantic returns coming from that. With controlling buildings, retrofitting them and optimizing them. Or new build, have that perspective in your mind before you start to design the choice of building material to get such a solution. I remember one final example from the Philippines. One of my friends there, she built a new building. It was all done eco-friendly, Zen. She called it a Zen building. They have a nurse, full-time nurse employed for their staff. They were in a building in Makati before. The nurse every day between 5 to 10 people, headache, or need to send home. I have breathing problems, respiratory issues. They moved into the new Zen office, optimized indoor air quality. the nurse is virtually without a job nowadays. There we go. So now we're going to wrap up. I think we're going to share about my 4-day ESG Innovator training course that Sarah has 1 or 2 slides. I think she mentioned that maybe already on the LinkedIn page. I am doing regular 4-day intense ESG training. Feel free to join that. It's HRDF claimable. So, you know, you don't even need to pay up money up front. It's fully claimable. There we go more into detail. We really work on your company. We work on your roadmap. We work on the ESG sales opportunities. And you can see here what's covered in the 4 days. In the next slide, this is basically the foundation on day 1. Then we focus on net zero decarbonization. Then we focus on the innovation part, day 3, as well the social innovation, the digitalization, and the last day is leadership. What is the championship, circular economy, regenerative economy, the things of the future, biodiversity, all of that. So yeah, if you just go 1 slide back, the next one is in 1.5 weeks time in KL, currently in Germany, but I'm going to come back for that face-to-face in KL. Would be great to see some of you guys there. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed today's talk. Find me on LinkedIn, just Google my name. And those of you that have promised the PDF copy of the book, make sure you message me that on LinkedIn, and then I'll send you the copy in return. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Matthias, for your super informative session. So with that, our Brain Huddle session has come to an end. Thank you again for joining us today. So PMCC organizes Brain Huddle session for free each month. So if you'd like to join our future sessions or event, be sure to follow us on all social media that are listed down in the chat. And we hope to see you again soon. Have a good evening and goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks, guys from PMCC to organize this. Cheers, bye. And I think I see Sam here. Sam, I still owe you the book as well, so I'll send that to you. Alrighty. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.